All right, folks, it is the Lex and Pete Show, Week 11 edition. We are back for another episode of Power Ranking. I believe it's been a month since we last Power Ranked because I think we just missed the Power Ranking episode 2 weeks ago. Scheduling conflicts. I was going to let the scheduling conflicts get in the way of this one. Pete was busy this weekend. He was with his queen. He was doing whatever. He was writing a blog that I thought he told me was already done. But he was talking about writing it on his phone in a car and trying to pose it as the league. The blog has not dropped yet. It's whatever. At least he's writing it. He did originally want to crowdsource it. I told him people want to hear what Slippery Pete wants to say. People do not want to hear a rehashing of the opinion they gave in a blog. Nobody wants to read. So Pete's got a blog coming out this week, hopefully. We got a lot coming up as well. I did talk about once the trade deadline hit and we felt like we were locked into ownership of the lottery picks. We were going to start doing some mock draft content. I'm going to try and get Amaral on this week, talk some college ball, talk some mock draft stuff, talk some upcoming just NFL draft and general stuff. Always good to have him on the episode. So we will be doing mock drafts next week, but this week it is Power Rankings. Before we get into that, as always, we'll get a word from our sponsors. Sundog Multimedia. Sundog is an online communication and social media company. What started as a personal tool has since evolved into something much bigger, allowing users to communicate, research, and discover things that impact their lives and daily decisions. Sundog will collaborate with you to build and execute a modern yet nimble social media strategy by utilizing innovative and traditional media principles. Sundog is also a proud supporter of the Stop Soldier Suicide Foundation. You can follow Sundog on Instagram at Sundog_multimedia. That's Instagram at Sundog_multimedia. Brains Brown and true professionalism. That's easy peasy moving and service. Muscle for hire, moving, assembly, errands, you name it, they will do it. Easy peasy is a multi-service team. If you need something, just ask. All right, folks. So we're going to get into the power rankings in a second. First, I do want to shoot it over to the standings, the playoff picture. We'll take a quick peek at the lottery as well. Really, nothing's changed there, but I'll just show it for documentary purposes. But I do want to take a look at this playoff picture real quick because things are getting really, really spicy down the stretch. We got a month left. There are the games this week, of course, but these final 3 weeks are all divisional matchups, and that is going to be very key. I know that we're kind of in a weird position right now, and I would like to kind of examine it in the offseason just to see, because I don't want to get too far away from wins, meaning nothing. I want people to want to win every week, and I do think that there is the incentive there with just maybe the ego boost of winning the division, but also, trying to get that first round bye. It's one game. It's not like you're resting your players or anything, but just guaranteeing that you're in the semifinals and you're a game closer and not having to worry about the luck that goes into fantasy week in and week out, especially in a playoff picture that I think has a lot of parity here. I do think that first round bye does really mean something, maybe more so this year than in years past. I know that we've joked about Big Brain always getting the bye and they don't win shit. So I do think it's going to matter this year. So let's look over real quick. I'll just take it here. I don't want to be reading the stats off and not have a visual for you guys. All right, it looks like we're good here. So Wallace and Two Pins, they are on top. Wallace has a good lead in points. I do think that as long as he holds on to that divisional lead in Sprite Cranberry, he should be, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. He's 18 points above Two Pins. But the way that he's been playing, I feel confident in his ability to hold on to that one seed as long as he can hold on to it. But he's 8-2 right now. Big Brain is also 8-2, and they have a head-to-head matchup coming up. They also both have to play the Bussey Boys. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really know whose position I'd rather be in. I guess Wallace I'd rather be in, but there's the pressure to constantly win. I take that back. I'd rather be Wallace, plain and simple, because even if he misses out on the divisional lead, I think that he's plenty safe when it comes to being in the playoffs. And we know that how his team's been playing. I would feel fine. So scratch that. I would much rather be Wallace. my point was more that the pressure almost seems to be on him to keep winning, even though it seems a little bit backwards, right? Because Big Brain's the one that's got to rally. But once you're in that driver's seat, right, you think, well, shit, like I don't want to fall off, anything like that. So there's pressure on both teams here because if Big Brain does not hold on, they are 0.1 points ahead of the most athletic Suns right now. The Suns are rallying. The Suns just got A-Chain back. They have Dak playing at a high level, and he has an absolute easy cakewalk for a schedule down the stretch. Goff is Goff. He's going to put up points, especially when he plays at home. And we know that the Lions, they like to get into these big battles. They're not going to play like a slow-paced game and try and play to the under or anything like that. The Lions, they're going to sling it. Goff's going to be back there slinging it. He's going to have plenty of opportunities to put up points. They have strong QB play. The issue with Big Brain right now, and part of it, I mean, I get it. It seems like a lot of teams almost view this as like one last run before really considering diving back into maybe not necessarily a rebuild, but a retool. And I know that Big Brain has that mindset. Big Brain does not have the horses to make a playoff run. They should have done it. We talked about this with McMorrow last year. They should have accepted that and been sellers at the deadline. The things that they could have gotten for a guy like Austin Eckler or Christian McCaffrey at the deadline would almost be criminal. What they could have pulled from teams that are in the playoff hunt right now, they should have been proactive about it. They should have gone out in front of it, and they should have just been sellers at the deadline. They should have accepted that they don't have the horses. Look at this. They're falling back and back and back. A month ago, we were talking about it, and we were putting the Suns into this conversation of being in the hunt, being sneaky. A lot of people did not think that it would be a possibility that they'd be 0.1 points away from a playoff spot at this point in the season with a month to go. We thought, oh, maybe it'll come down to week 14, that final week we'll be watching. No, it's here right now. And right now, the Suns are way better equipped for making that run. And Big Brain, they're going to be stuck. They're going to be picking, 7th overall. I don't think they even have their first round pick. They should have just said, fuck it. We're not even going to try and do it. Let's just get all these picks, get geared up for the 24 draft, maybe get some investment in the 25 draft, anything like that. So whatever. I'll get back into Big Brain when we get to their point. Other instances here. I mean, we got 2 pins. They are 3 points behind the Vipers. Exactly 3 points, or 2 pins is 3 points ahead of the Vipers, I should say. Let me just check the records real quick. This is also going to come down to their matchup when it comes to down the stretch. They are 1 game behind 2 pins, so they do have to outpace them. But the thing is, if they can at least keep pace with them and then win that head-to-head matchup, if they can get those points, then they win that tiebreaker. They shoot into it as well. So we have a lot to watch. I mean, the Zits, they have that locked up. Nobody's catching them for the division. So the Zits, they're locked up. They're only 30 points behind right now of getting the first round bye. They're just, simply put, I'm rambling now. There is a lot to watch down the stretch with these 7 playoff contending teams. Let's just take a quick look at the draft lottery as well. As I said, nothing has really changed at all. The order did not change at all. I guess you can keep an eye on some of these races. I mean, Mikey, he just lost Joe Burrow for the season. He just traded away Russell Wilson, so he's got Justin Fields coming back. That's his only quarterback on the roster. He did make some moves. He got Rachaad White. I know that he was in the running. He was trying to get Mark Andrews at the deadline. So I think Mikey was trying to maybe be a little competitive to end the year, but I think also he just viewed it more so as just getting pieces now to prepare for next season. I mean, he addressed somewhat his running back issue. So he has that kind of figured out going into next year a little bit. He's got a little bit more depth there. He has his own first rounder. So I don't think that those are really contending moves. I mean, obviously he's like not a contender. He's so far out of it. So I think he was just making moves to get ready for next year. But he's only 60 points more max points for than Sfogliatella. So who knows down the stretch? If Amaril's team starts playing up, Mikey isn't getting Jefferson back. Of course, we just talked about the quarterbacks. That is something to watch. Amaral could play himself to the back end of the lottery completely. That was a team that we all thought was going to be locked up for that number 1 spot. This could end up being the 4th team going into the lottery, not even in the top 3, missing out on May, Marvin, Caleb Williams. That's somebody that we'll talk about next week when we have him on. But it's something to watch because Mikey could either go up and he's only 80 points behind Slippery Pete, or he's only 60 points ahead of Sfogliatella. So I think Mikey is the big mover here. That's the team to watch going down the stretch. How are they going to move? Is he going to move out of the lottery, bump Slippery Pete in? Is he going to move down, bump Amaral up? I guess that's really all that there is to watch here. I guess maybe my team can catch on. I got Kyler Murray playing. I don't know if that's really going to happen at this point. It's a big deficit to make up for. But all right, that's enough. That's enough. Let's get over to the tiers. Let's get going on this. Hold on. Let me get over here. How do I get to the... Okay, I'm like a fucking moron. Okay, presentation. All right. Here are the tiers from a month ago. So I don't think that we really need to get back into what we talked about a month ago. If you need the explanations there, you can go right ahead. You can go on YouTube and you can look it up yourself. Okay. Here it is. Where do I want to start? I think my number one target right now is 2 pins. 2 pins. I'm going to bump them again back to the standard. I'm starting to wonder a little bit. Mahomes, he hasn't necessarily been playing at that high level right now. I think Herbert's been playing really well. Of course, they were dealing with Cup for most of it. I don't feel like they have that same stranglehold on the league that they've had in years past. And that's why I've made them the standard before in previous power rankings, because I'm starting to just see the league catch up to them. I think right now they are still the team to beat. Until somebody knocks them off, until we get another champion or another half champion, that is them. But I don't know. 2 pins, the Vibers only being a few points behind them, only 1 game behind them with that head-to-head. I feel like the Vibers are playing better fantasy football right now. I'm not going to bump them down from that top spot when it comes to 2 pins, but I am going to update that title. So right now they are the standard with a question mark. I'm just not sure that they are like the overwhelming favorite that they have been. And, I say that like it's really up for debate. I don't think it is. All right, let's move on. I think another team that I'm going to bump up. I mean, we had them in the chasing greatness tier. I kind of think they might be the second best team in the league right now. I'm bumping the Vibers up to the time is now. They're making these moves. They almost have like an unlimited supply of assets to make these trades. I mean, they traded for Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. He tears his Achilles. They traded for Kirk Cousins. He tears his Achilles. They traded for Russell Wilson at the deadline. I don't know what that means for him. I mean, as a guy that invested in Jarrett Stidham in the offseason, I did have my hot take that I think Stidham and Darnold are both going to get starts this year for their teams. Maybe that's a good sign for my bet if the Vibers are trading for this quarterback right now. But they keep making these moves. And I mean, obviously they don't have stuff to make moves now. You can't, the deadline pass, but they have so many assets that they can still trade. It's crazy. So they're making the moves, and they're the only team that was really the only contender that I felt was really aggressive at the deadline. And I feel like that's got to pay off for them. And I got to give them their respect. Like I said, they're only a few points behind, some of the top teams in the league when it comes to that. And the only reason that they're not a division winner right now is because they're in the same division as 2 pins, who has 8 wins. So if they can make that comeback, I mean, obviously right now in terms of power, you got to have 2 pins ahead of them, but I think the Vibers might be the best team in the league right now. That's just my take. I'm not necessarily predicting them to win the championship, but I think right now, season ends, the Vibers might be my pick. So I'm going to put them not only up a tier and put them with the time is now, I'm also going to bump them to the top of that tier and put them ahead of other teams. I'm not going to do that. Actually, I'm going to segue that over to Wallace. Okay. I'm going to keep Wallace at the top. I'm going to keep him there. I'm going to keep him as the number 1 in the time is now tier. I was just singing his praises. What am I going to do? Walk that back now and now not have him be at the top there? So like I said, I mean, I refuse to put anybody above 2 pins unless they seriously start falling off. Like if they start putting up 90-point weeks down the stretch, we're going to have a serious discussion, right? But right now, like I said, until somebody knocks him off, I'm not going to do it. Wallace, he is the best team right now. That's true. I think that these two are the most dangerous teams heading into the playoffs at this moment. These are the 2 teams I don't want to face. I feel like 2 pins is a little beatable. I do. I think that these 2 are at the top right now. I feel like I said a lot about Wallace when we were looking at the standings. That was a team that we had thinking that they might be, all eyes on 2025, but CJ Stroud has taken that step up. I'm a little iffy going into this week. He's getting MVP love. Feels like a classic letdown spot there. That's whatever. Okay. I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to put Wallace at the top right now. I'm going to put him in 2 pins there. And then I'm also going to give respect to the Zits. I mean, the Zits just put up like 155 points last week. It feels like the Zits always show up every other week when it comes time to do the power rankings, because I feel like we've never gone into a power rankings with the Zits coming off a bad loss or just a bad, underwhelming performance or anything like that. They put up 152. I feel like a lot of teams are starting to doubt them. I think teams that come out of that division get a lot of hate because let's face the facts. Regular season wise, it has been the weakest division that we have. It always seems like they just produce one playoff team. It's the division winner, and that division winner is, in a vacuum, maybe not even worthy of being a wild card team. But that's different right now. I mean, we were talking about it with the Zits. I mean, they're 30 points behind 2 pins. They're 50 points behind I Love My Mom. That's a deficit that can be made up over these last 4 weeks. You outscore them by 10, 15 points every week. All of a sudden, that gap totally closes. And that's not unrealistic in fantasy football. Let's be real about it. So I think that the Zits get a lot of hate, a lot of doubt because of the division that they come out of, but they're playing really good football right now. I know they were in a slump in the middle of the season, but it feels like they might be coming out of that. So I think that right now, that is the time is now tier. These are 3 teams that are geared up. Like I said, going into the playoffs, if the playoffs started today, these are the 3 teams that I'd be scared of facing. I'm going to keep it at that. Bumping it down, we got the Chasing Greatness tier. We have Simcoe there, the Bussey Boys. I don't have much to say about them. They are snake bitten. We saw we saw Lamar go down. He did come back. Okay, he came back. He led them to that win. I do think that he's playing MVP football right now. Jalen Hurts obviously playing at a high level, even though I think he's taken a slight step back from last year. It's a competitive team. This is a team that I feel like is fairly safe in the playoffs right now. They have that buffer of big brain between them and the Suns. So even if Suns passes the both of them, he's still safe. Like there's no other team that can overtake them. So I'm going to put them in that Chasing Greatness tier. We have seen what this team is capable of. But right now I'm just not seeing it in comparison to some of the teams that I have ranked above them. Let's move on to it now. This is where I think it gets a little controversial. I'm going to plant my flag in a team right now. I'm going to keep the tiers the same, like the titles of the tiers and the teams inside of them. I'm bumping the Suns up. And it's pretty much exactly what I said when we were starting it up and we were looking at that playoff picture. I feel like they're the team that is better equipped to make the run down the stretch and snag that spot. If the deficit was bigger, I mean, if we're talking about like 20, 30 points, I'd have to have Big Brain ahead of them just because, like, it's not impossible to make up that deficit, but that's going to take at least a week or 2 to do. I guess it can be done in a week, but I mean, that would take like a 130 point week and then, a 100 point week, whatever. Okay. Right now, these teams are tied in my eyes when it comes to that playoff spot. The Suns are 0.1 behind. And we know that if they just started A-Chain earlier in the season, they would actually be above them. Big Brain would be on the outside looking in right now if the Suns just started Devon A-Chain when he was putting up 50 points in a game. The Suns, and it should never be forgotten, have likely missed out on his career best performance because they wanted to start like Josh Kelly and Zach Moss. Just do not let that be forgotten. But right now, they're better equipped. I view these teams as equal, so I don't think it's too much of a hot take to rank one above the other. But I'm just making that prediction. I think that down the stretch, I think the Suns are going to put up more points. It does not matter. I mean, I guess Big Brain, if they can win these games and Wallace is losing them, then they can kind of remove themselves from that conversation. But I'm not seeing them play that type of football right now. I like the Suns to put up more points down the stretch. And I think that when they're essentially tied in that, I'm going to, give them that bump up. So they're the Jeff Fisher tier. They are my projected 6th seed. I think that they can make a little bit of noise in the playoffs. Until I see it from Big Brain, I just can't give them the respect in the power rankings. So if they want to come out and put together a 130, 140 point week, they can do it. With that quarterback play, I just don't think it's possible. Let's move on to the division. All right. We got Slippery Pete in the division. I don't think that there's really much to change in this back half here. I think that, as I said, when it comes to the lottery, they're pretty, it's pretty much sorted itself out already. There's maybe like a little bit of movement to watch with Mikey Bowen. I'm going to keep Pete in the division here. The division's getting a little tough. I know he was in the market for a quarterback, talking about Joe Burrow, maybe trying to trade for Anthony Richardson, making a little bit of moves like that. And he was getting aggressive. I mean, let's face the facts. He offered me, a first rounder. He offered me some top young wide receivers that I could have gotten. I decided to hold off. I don't think I'm going to regret ever holding on to Kyler Murray or Anthony Richardson. Maybe I'll regret not taking that package he offered. Maybe it really turns into something crazy. But I think that at the very least, my baseline will always be happy that I have Anthony Richardson and Kyler Murray in a super flex league. So I'm not going to get too desperate for a trade when it comes to moving guys like that. So it's going to take a lot. You can't expect to get top talents and pinch pennies at the same time. It's just not going to happen. So he is in a little bit of quarterback trouble. Deshaun Watson out for the year. These guy Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he's starting now. I know that Pete has him. I don't know if he has PJ Walker as well on his roster. I think he has both Browns quarterbacks. It's like that's really irrelevant when it comes to the vision. But Pete's got to figure out his quarterback issue. Is Deshaun Watson going to come back and play at a high level? Pete was on here a couple weeks ago defending Deshaun Watson, saying, "Oh, he's still playing good football. Oh, he put up all these top 10 weeks." That's a box score watcher right there. And, I've never accused Pete of being a box score watcher. I know that he watches every game intently. But if you watch these games, he's not playing good football. Okay. He's saving himself with his legs, but we know that, the legs can only get you so far when it comes to keeping your NFL career. I know they have this massive, massive investment in him. So I guess Pete always has the job security. Like they're not going to replace Deshaun Watson because they've paid him way too much, fully guaranteed money. But is he capable of being a QB1? At what point do we have to say, you know what? I don't know if he's going to get to that point. And the same thing with Bryce Young. I don't know if Bryce Young is ever going to be a QB1. I don't even know if he's going to be a confident QB2 in fantasy football. I mean, okay, he's going to get his chance for at least a year or two. But we see guys like Darnold get replaced. We see that happen. Like you're not just guaranteed to be a quarterback because of your pedigree coming in. At some point, we need to see real life NFL production and results. We're not seeing that. Bryce Young is a baby out there. He looks like he's throwing into a wind tunnel when he has to throw downfield. I just don't think he can be effective as a fantasy quarterback. I don't know if he's ever going to be a QB1, and I think it's going to be tough for him to be a serviceable QB2 on a championship team. Okay, there's 32 guys. All these guys start for us. But to be a starter on a championship team, I don't know if Pete is there yet with his quarterbacks. I think he's got the rest of it figured out. So he's got those 2 first rounders. It's the vision. Okay. I know that he's talked about it. You know what? Just because I've seen him say that the vision's murky. The vision? What's good with your QBs, bro? Where are they at? Where are those points at? I don't know. Moving on. The foundation. We got my team. I could talk about my team for hours. Okay. I don't really care where my pick ends up. Okay, I'm confident with the moves that I've made. That's kind of been my strategy in years past anyways. I call it kind of rebuilding on the fly. I don't have the patience to sit around for a pick. I was getting offered 25 picks, 26 picks at the deadline. I don't want that because so much can happen between now and then that, buying a pick because I think it's going to be the 1-1 in 2025. What if like McMorrow just sells off his picks and decides, shit, I can use these picks to become a competitive team right now, or I can just get players right now. All of a sudden, he trades those picks to get like cornerstone pieces. It becomes a lot harder. I mean, everybody thought that Amaral was a lock to be 1-1. He's potentially going to be the 1-4 this year. And we have a draft lock. So it's like things could get mixed up. So going more than a year out, that's just not for me. So, when it comes to the foundation, I like going out and getting guys that I've kind of seen do it. And that means I got to pay a little bit of a premium on top as opposed to just drafting them in the rookie draft. That's okay because I feel confident in getting that production from them. So I got my guys. I got Kyler Murray. I got Anthony Richardson. Seems like I might have some running backs starting to kind of, come out with Keaton Mitchell. Obviously, I had Jerome Ford. I traded him to get James Cook. Love that move for me. I love my receivers. Love Dalton Kincaid, love my tight end. So I'm confident with my roster that I have. So I think it is just the same that we've kind of said every week. My foundation has been set. Now it's all on me to be patient and to allow my guys to grow. Like a guy like Will Levis, okay? He put up that massive performance in his debut, hasn't really done that since. But from just watching the film, I'm confident in what I have with him. He looks like a guy, he looks legit. As I said, he's like a guy that's been going to QB camps for his entire life. And you can tell when he does the pump fake and he goes, when he does the pump fake and he goes, like that's straight QB camp. Oh yeah, we got to do the over exaggerated shit. So I like what he has. It's tough to put up fantasy points as a rookie quarterback when you're 3 starts in and you're already top 10 in QB hits taken, that becomes a little bit of an issue. So I think that the Titans know they have a guy. They're going to have a decent pick next year. They're going to focus on that O-line. I think they have a lot of cap space. They can bring in some O-linemen. They can bring in maybe a guy like T. Higgins or Michael Pittman or I don't think Mike Evans is really going to be available, but go after a guy like him as well. Ayuso, free agent the next year, things like that. So I think that they can make the moves and get around him. For me, it's all about how does he look out there? Does he have the poise? Does his arm still look good? Is he making decent decisions at the very least? Because there's got to be rookie mistakes. So my foundation set, I'm keeping myself there. Down to Amaril's tier. I'm going to keep it that name. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to make it lottery pendant because this guy keeps playing himself out of these positions. And honestly, I think it might actually be hurting him because, guys like Sam Howell and Baker Mayfield are playing up. Okay. They're getting him those points. Are Baker Mayfield and Sam Howell really part of the long-term vision? I think Howell's got a good chance. What are we doing with Baker Mayfield? Okay. I mean, maybe he's found a new life in Tampa Bay. I think he's on a 1-year deal, though. He might just be like that mercenary, bring him in, bridge quarterback, see what we have. Oh, if we're like a quarterback away, maybe Baker goes to fucking Tampa Bay next year or something like that. But I think he's going to be that guy that just goes team to team. I don't know if he's ever going to find a permanent home. How I just worry about the long term, right? Okay, he's putting up a ton of fantasy points now. His stats are great. He's getting sacked a ton. I just worry about a potential coaching change in Washington. New ownership might want to take things in a different direction. And that could always just be bad for a guy like Sam Howell, who is a 5th-round pick, who is playing up right now. But I just don't know if the guys that are putting the points on the board for Amaral and taking him out of these lottery picks are guys that are part of the long-term vision. I don't know if that's good for him in the long run. If he didn't have those guys and he was just outright tanking, maybe he'd be better off because I don't know what the trade value is of a guy like Baker in the offseason. I don't know what Howell is worth if you want to try and get rid of him eventually. But so I worry about it. But he just keeps playing himself up. And like I said, I mean, I'm not even sure if Amaral is going to be in the top 3 now. So I don't want to put him on that Marvin Harrison tier because I don't know if he's tanking for Marvin Harris. He might be a Malik Neighbors guy. And maybe Malik Neighbors is up there in terms of prospects. I don't know. We'll see how things turn out when it comes time to draft. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to keep Amaral there. I think there's a lot to talk about with his position and exactly what the state of the union is with his team. But let's move on to that Caleb Williams tier. So we got McMorrow here. We got Pete via my pick here as well. I'm going to make that questionable. No, you know what? I'm just going to plant my flag. This is the Drake May. No. I don't know what I want to make this. That's a really good question because Drake May is my QB1. I might be willing to say that this is the Marvin Harrison tier. Marvin Harrison might end up being the overall 1-1 when it comes to this. And I mean, these are 2 teams that are desperate for a quarterback. McMorrow definitely needs one. I think all he's got is Daniel Jones on his team now. So he almost might not have a choice. Maybe he wants to just hold out until 2025. Pete also needs a quarterback. Pete might be more willing to take that quarterback here. I think that he really likes Marvin Harrison. He likes the idea of Wilson, Harrison, CeeDee Lamb, all that stuff. But Pete, I don't know. I mean, maybe he wants to hold out for McMorrow's 2025 pick and try and get that quarterback there. But I think that when Pete wants to round out his roster, he's going to need a quarterback more. If he's in that top 2, he can get Caleb Williams, he can get Drake May. He might feel inclined to do that, especially because he has his own pick. That's probably going to be the 5th pick. So he can get a wide receiver there and try and tie them in. So you know what? No, this is the QB tier. What do I want to call? I'm just going to call that Caleb Williams the question mark. That's what we'll do. We're going to keep it there just because I don't know if he's the first overall pick. Let's just think about this. All right. Caleb Williams just lost his last start for USC. They're now, I think, 7-4. I don't think he's going to play in any bowl game that they get. He played horrible down the stretch. We've seen Lincoln Riley take guys like Jalen Hurts. Kyler Murray, those guys, they go out there, they're Heisman contenders. I know Caleb Williams won it last year. You got to respond better than this, okay? To come out, lose all these games, throw these interceptions, play like shit, cry, do a Lambeau leap and cry to your parents, shit like that. This guy is the NFL version of Ben Simmons. I do not want Caleb Williams to get drafted by the Patriots. I would not take Caleb Williams with any of these lottery picks. I would be looking at other options. I would be looking at Drake May. I'd be looking at Marvin Harrison. By the time the draft gets here, I would be looking at, who knows what quarterback, if Bo Nix really gets that type of love, Michael Penix, Malik Neighbors, Keon Coleman. I think these are guys that right now I'd feel more comfortable in investing in their careers than I would for Caleb Williams. He feels like Ben Simmons come in. He wants the equity. I don't know. Like, what are we talking about with him being this generational prospect? I've seen him get comparisons to Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes wasn't even a generational prospect. He was like the 10th overall pick. He was like the 4th quarterback taken, man. Okay. People are so quick to slap that generational tag. He is not Trevor Lawrence. He is not Andrew Luck. He is not Peyton Manning. He is none of those things. He came in, he lost 4 games at USC. They were a ranked team. They had playoff aspirations going into this year. Some of these other teams, like Mahomes, when he was at, where did he go? Texas Tech. That was not a team with playoff aspirations. So I forgive those losses. Okay. Caleb Williams has not shown to me that he is a franchise cornerstone guy. I way more trust Drake May, and I'd much rather take Marvin Harrison if I have a top 3 pick over Caleb Williams. Right now, he should go no earlier than 1-3. That's how I feel. Lost my train of thought, but yeah, that's where I got both teams. Okay. Whatever. Down here, we got Mikey Bowen. He's still in hell until proven otherwise. He did make, I liked his deadline move. I liked him going out, getting Rachaad White. I liked him trading Russell Wilson. Of course, that was before he lost Burrow, but Burrow's going to come back. He's going to be fine next year. He has his own first rounder. Okay. I don't know if Justin Fields is the guy. Justin Fields could get replaced this year, so he might be in the market for a quarterback in the offseason. We'll see. But until proven otherwise, until I really see Mikey's roster show a little bit of life, he's going to stay in that hell tier. That's all I got to say on Mikey. I don't really think I have any closing statements. Here it is. Let's just get one last look at the tiers. I will post this in the league chat and then get this edited and posted. Hopefully, I should have enough time to get this posted right before kickoff. So let's bring this back. Let's stop sharing that screen. All right, folks. As I said, we will be back next week. Full cast and crew. Pete will be here. Mark my words. We will also get Amaral in the mix. We're going to start doing some mock draft talk. I don't know if we'll do like an actual mock draft, but at least talking about rookie drafts, talking about prospects, and talking about that type of stuff. As we get ready to go down the stretch here, we have a lot of exciting games, a lot of exciting matchups, a lot of exciting positions to look at down the stretch here. I am very excited to see how things unfold, and I'm really looking forward to see if things can change in these power rankings in these next 2 weeks.